A common theme in soap operas is amnesia. Now, in real life, amnesia patients don't usually forget their entire identity. They have trouble assimilating new information and forming new memories. But on TV, it's more like the president is kidnapped by his evil vice president who turns out to also be his twin brother, who carefully knocks him on the head in the right space to induce amnesia, and then the president thinks he's a bus driver until he sees a picture of the first lady in a magazine, and it all comes flooding back. I have never experienced this kind of amnesia, and I don't think 99.999% of the population has. Am I right, Karen? It's not so common, right? But I have experienced spiritual amnesia. So tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You have some sort of soul-moving experience, like a really good Shabbat morning service, or you're out in nature and you see something magnificent, or you have a heart-to-heart with someone you love, and you resolve to be a better person. And about half an hour later, you get home, the dishwasher's flooded the floor with gray water, and you're cursing and spitting, right? You have this spiritual amnesia. You can't remember that resolution to be a better person. The most common treatment for medical amnesia is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it turns out the treatment for spiritual amnesia is not so different. The great doctor at Sinai gave us some good habits to practice daily to keep us remembering who we truly are and who we're trying to be. Those are the mitzvot. Today, we read about one of the mitzvot. We read, "The Lord said to Moses as follows, 'Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge. Thus you shall be reminded to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, the Lord, am your God.'" In other words, when we look at the tzitzit, we're supposed to remember all of the commandments. Now, it may be a bit of a leap for some of us to say, well, I looked at the tzitzit and I remembered who I was, and now I'm a good person. But the truth is, all of these ritual mitzvot add up as good daily habits because they all ask us to pause and be reflective. I'll give you some examples. Keeping kosher. I have this microcosm on my plate of thinking about what I'm going to consume. And it can reach out to a more universal message of being conscious of consumption in the world in general, the impact that that has on the environment and the community around us. A mezuzah. It asks us to pause every time we enter a room to give ourselves a moment to say, who do I want to be when I enter this space? Who am I truly? How do I want to treat the people around me? Or keeping Shabbat, because as important as our Excel spreadsheets are, or driving carpool is, keeping Shabbat reminds us we were actually brought into this world to be part of God's holy creation, and we answer to something much more important than deadlines. So all of the ritual mitzvot are meant to cause reflection. And the truth is, the classic midrash, when we look at the tzitzit, is numerology. We're supposed to remember all of the mitzvot in this one piece of string. Because the word tzitzit, if you add up the numerical values of the Hebrew letters, it's 600, plus there are 8 strings involved in one of the fringes. So now we're at 608. Plus there are 5 knots, which makes 613. So, clearly an important mitzvah to wear the tzitzit, and it is found in an interesting story in the Talmud of how this can be a real redeeming mitzvah. This story is a little bit blue, so I'm going to speak in some highfalutin code to protect the ears of our most innocent congregants. There once was a man who studied with the great Rabbi Chia, and he was very pious, but he did have a weakness. And he heard a story of a woman of ill repute who cost 400 gold pieces. This he had to try. He was about to sample her wares when all of a sudden his tzitzit jumped up and slapped him in the face. This is Menachot 44b, story from the Talmud. And part of why I love it is the rabbis really covered everything. So he gets hit in the face by his tzitzit, he's brought to his senses, and he leaves the room. Now, the woman is so surprised that she runs after him and says, "What fault did you find with me?" And he says, No, you're the most beautiful woman on the planet, but my tzitzit reminded me I can't degrade you because your soul is as great as your physical beauty. And I can't take the most blessed and amazing act of creation that God has given us and defile it. And she was so impressed with this man that she gave away her vast fortune, followed him back to his teacher, Rabbi Chia, and became a woman learned in Torah. Yes, clearly it's a rabbi-centric story, but it's a good one, right? Now, I have never yet been slapped in the face by my tzitzit, although Sue Slotnick did add last night, yet. I've never been slapped in the face by my tzitzit, but I do have a connection to them when I wrap them around my finger in preparation for the Shema, or when I feel them swaying gently against me when I'm saying the Amidah. It's this constant reminder of remember the commandments. That is the path to living a righteous and fulfilling life. And it's not as dramatic as remembering I'm the president at the last minute rushing the Oval Office to stop a nuclear war. But it is transformational and life-changing if it becomes a regular practice. And we're also told in Psalm 147 that God is the Rofei Hashfurei Lev, the doctor of the brokenhearted, who binds up our wounds. And sometimes when I'm wrapping my tzitzit around my hand, I have this image of the great doctor from Sinai wrapping up the parts of me that are hurt to help cure my spiritual amnesia so that I can go back into the world remembering who I truly am and want to be. So my blessing for us this week is that whatever mitzvah is your cognitive behavioral therapy that keeps you remembering again and again what a good person you have the potential to be, that you find that mitzvah and that you engage in it wholeheartedly. Shabbat Shalom.